Hi, clearly I did not vlog for the rest of the semester. The last time I posted a video, my hair was still yellow, but as you can see, it's black now. But it was a very fun semester. Today's video is not about a vlog, it's actually about my journey into getting back into reading as an adult. So, yeah. For me, it all started in 2020. You know what happened there. But also, during that year, I was in a new city in London, Ontario, by myself, no friends, no family, and I had a lot of time on my hands. But to give you a better view of what my headspace was like during the time, or actually like a year after then, or a couple of months after, I'll read you what I wrote in my journal as a reflection on reading as an adult. Last summer, in around June, I decided that I should get back into reading. I was living by myself in London with no friends or family around. I knew that I would have a lot more time for myself, and so I decided to dive into my hobbies. University had robbed me of my hobbies at this point, but not just university, just school in general. So I thought that the best way to explore my hobbies again is to try out the hobbies I enjoyed the most as a kid. Oftentimes, I think people force themselves to get hobbies that are held at a higher regard, like reading about finance, non-fiction, self-help, etc., or doing hobbies that are actually side hustles of making money. But in reality, hobbies are activities that you don't have to put any pressure on yourself to perform it. You can set goals with hobbies, say like get better at drawing hands, but the overall feeling of satisfaction, leisure, or happiness should be there, with or without the presence of a goal. Hobbies are supposed to be enjoyable. So if you are forcing yourself into a hobby you don't enjoy, then you are defeating the purpose of a hobby. Anyways, back on reading. As a kid, I spent whole days at the library with my brother. My older brother and I were big bookworms, and we would like to walk to the library and spend several hours there reading, browsing, picking out books, going on the computer, and so on. During those years, we didn't have a TV or our own internet. We relied on the library for a lot of our entertainment. I must have read hundreds of books at that age, because we would come home from the library with backpacks as stuffed as we could get it. I just have a lot of fond memories about reading. I used to read on my commute to school in high school and enjoyed that too. When I got into university though, I felt like I never had enough energy left. I would rather do nothing because that was how I could experience rest. So as you can see, like many other people that I know that got into reading, I don't read anymore. It's probably because reading felt more like a chore and you didn't really get much of a break because it is still like, you know, takes some focus and takes some effort to read. And school really be eating up all of your focus and gives you no time to rest sometimes, you know? But because I had so much free time on my hands, I decided to set a goal, and that's to read one book per month, or at least 12 books per year, which is honestly not that bad of a goal. Like, I was like, oh, I can read a book in a month, so that's good. So let's go over what I had challenges with initially when I started this goal. So first of all, I'm a student and I do school for one semester and then work for another and then back and forth, or at least I was doing that at that time. And because of that, I move a lot. And since I move a lot, I actually don't really like carrying or like filling up my stuff with books because they're heavy and they take up a lot of space. And I want to, you know, I have pretty limited space in these apartments. So, you know, books are not really worth it for me in terms of physical space. So that meant I needed to try out ebooks and audiobooks, which were pretty hard to transition to because I always read physical books and I'd never tried other ways. The hard part about transitioning to like ebooks and audiobooks is because they're digital, it's so much easier to get distracted. So it's really helpful if you just like turn off the notifications or like reduce them when you want to read. And also you need to learn what kind of books you like to consume in ebooks and audiobooks. So what I found was that I cannot do fiction on audiobooks. Like, it's so hard for me to visualize and stay immersed with a fiction book through audio but I can do a lot of nonfiction on audio. That's actually the primary way I read my nonfiction books because I'm so used to listening to podcasts. Another thing is I'm a student, so therefore I don't got a lot of money, okay? And if you know me, I'm a master of finding PDFs for everything, okay? I've never spent a single cent on textbooks throughout this entire degree because I can find a PDF. And that also applies to all the books I like to read or want to read. I will find a PDF, either online or through the library. I'm actually signed with 2 different libraries. Aside from that, I had a lot of insecurities or shame around how I was reading once I started again. So it usually happens if you try a hobby or try anything and then you suck at it even though you were good at it before. So some of the things I was annoyed about was that, oh, I'm reading so much slower, my vocabulary has slipped a lot. If you're in engineering, you don't really be using words, so that's why my vocabulary just be slipping. I just be knowing words related to math. Another problem I had was that when I wanted to read fiction, or actually books in general again, I started with pretty difficult books like classical literature stuff and things that I was able to read back then, but then because I lost all of the vocab and all of the critical thinking when it comes to literature, it was so hard to start with. So I recommend not starting with hard books and try to choose things that you actually like, because something I believe in is not finishing a book if I don't want to. I know I'll finish a book if I like the book. So don't force yourself to finish a book if you don't like them. So I've been keeping this reading goal for the last 2 years, so 2020, then all of 2021 and 2022, and my relationship with reading is so great. I love it again. I read all the time again. It feels like when I was a kid, but not as much because I still got school and work, so my brain be muddled. But it's still a pretty enjoyable hobby to me now, instead of being a chore. All in all though, I can attribute a lot of my personal growth in the last 2 years through reading because I've gained so many new perspectives. But enough of this introspective blah 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 goal stuff, and let's get into the women in STEM part, which is statistics. I've been tracking what books I read and my ratings of them over the last couple of years, so I just collected them in a little spreadsheet. I'll show you them. They're super cute. I would recommend it if you like quantitative data. So this is my little cute spreadsheet. It's pink and cream, and I got the ratings, my thoughts on the book, year I read it, title, genre, authors, and basic stuff. I'm gonna put up on the screen the tables and graphs for the statistics. But yeah, let's start with the summary of the goal stuff, big picture things. So I've met my goal every year ever since I set this goal. In the first year, I read 18 books. Then in the second year, I read 27 books. And then this year, I read 17 books. This means that reading is actually a hobby of mine again, which I don't know about you, but sometimes I have trouble labeling myself in terms of let's say, labeling myself as an artist, but I actually don't do art a lot. And having this quantitative data tells me, yes, I am a reader. So in total, in the last 2 years, I read 62 books, and on average, that's 20.7 books per year or 1.7 books per month. But then this made me curious, do I like fiction more or non-fiction? So let's get into that. So in this pie chart, you'll see the genre split for all of the books I've read thus far. And you can see, to my surprise, that it was split in half, 50-50. And this tells me maybe I do like it evenly, but it doesn't tell me the full story though. So like I said, I took note of all the ratings I had for these books, so I rated them out of 5, and let's look at how the rating distribution is for the fiction side. As you can see, I read a lot of mid-fiction books. The bar in the middle is the tallest, so that's the most I read, and there are very few like books that are above mid, and very few books, or almost no books actually, that are below mid. And statistically this makes sense. Not every book you will pick up will be good, and that's actually the case for all things. Most things are mid. But you'll see on the x-axis that the graph starts at 2, and that's because I don't ever finish a book that I don't like. Now let's look at the distribution for nonfiction, and you can see I also read a lot of mid books. Makes sense, but it looks a lot different from the fiction one because I read a lot of less than average books, but also way more excellent books. The reason why I have more books that are completed in the nonfiction side that are below average is because nonfiction books tend to be a lot shorter, so it's easier for me to rationalize finishing like a 200-page novel or like 200-page nonfiction compared to like 1,000-page fiction, you know? Okay, but like these distributions don't exactly tell me which one I like more, fiction or nonfiction. So I averaged all the ratings for the fiction books and nonfiction books and compared them. It turns out I actually like them pretty equally. Like, this was surprising to me because, well, actually I know that I like them equally, I just didn't realize that they would be numerically almost the same. Okay, now I'll show you the last set of graphs. These are the stats for my book ratings over the years per year. It looks like a lot, but what we can conclude from these graphs is that over the years, I understand my taste in books a lot better. So you can see in the 2022 chart that the distribution is right-leaning, meaning that I've read a lot more above average books. In the 2021 and 2022 distribution charts, it's a little bit more parabolic where the mid books are very high, and that's a very normal distribution. Well, it's actually not normal if you look at the data like statistically, but it's a lot more normal than the super right-leaning graph I showed you for 2022. And you can see with the heights on the distributions that in 2021 and 2020 I read a lot more mid books than any other rating, but in 2022 I actually read more good books than mid books. This is super cool to me because it numerically or like quantitatively shows that I actually know myself better. And now you might be curious what books I rated as a 5. I put them in a Hall of Fame, and basically I rate anything a 5 if I connected with the themes, or I felt immersed with the story, or it stayed in my brain, my consciousness for a long time, or all of the above. I won't get into detail as to why I rated these as a 5. Maybe like in the future I could tell you if you ever asked, but they're here for your entertainment. Okay, so key takeaways to how to get into reading again as an adult if you liked reading as a kid is, first of all, read books that you actually like and are interested in. Remove the pressure from yourself to perform, because like I said, it's just a hobby. It's meant for leisure. 3, choose the right medium for you. So like I said, I had trouble with the audiobooks and the ebooks, but once I learned that my nonfiction goes to audiobooks and my fiction goes to ebooks, everything went smoothly. And lastly, don't give up too early. I mean, in this goal. So everything has a learning curve. Even if you've already learned it again, there's still a learning curve. So make sure, give yourself a good couple of months to try out this goal. Don't give up too early. You can give up on shitty books early, but not on your entire goal. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you're gonna start reading this New Year's.